starting a business, even when you've been running it for a while, you never have a moment where you feel fully prepared or like you have all the answers. That's because if you ever do feel completely confident in your situation, then you're not growing. You're stagnating. You're not learning. You're just repeating old patterns. And so, if we're constantly learning how to improve and grow our businesses, that requires us to have courage, to put ourselves out there, even though we don't have all the answers, and to do it scared. Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor, the podcast. I'm your host, Paulina Cossette. In 2019, I was a political science professor who was fed up with the stress and hostility of academia, not to mention the low pay. I left my tenure-track job and went from barely surviving to thriving as a freelance academic editor. Today, I own Acadia Editing Services, an editing and coaching business that brings in 6 figures a year. In this podcast, I'll discuss the challenges of academia, what academic editing involves, and what life as a freelancer looks like. If you're willing to jump outside your comfort zone, it is possible to find joy, true flexibility, and a profitable and rewarding career as an academic editor. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor. I'm your host, Paulina Cossette. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you a recent client win. One of my students in our current cohort of Becoming an Academic Editor or Coach, BAE, just landed his first coaching client. And he was able to achieve this because of the work that we've been doing together inside the course and also much of it one-on-one in BAE. I'm going to walk you through the journey this client has taken from deciding on his niche to creating his website to following a lead for his own potential coaching client and how he landed that client through a discovery call and a sales call process, both of which I'm giving a workshop on later this month for all of the members of BAE. But I'm also going to share with you a crucial point about owning a business. Often in business, when you're trying to achieve your goals, serving clients, meeting revenue goals, whatever it is, you have to do it scared. I've said before that when you're starting a business, even when you've been running it for a while, you never have a moment where you feel fully prepared or like you have all the answers. That's because if you ever do feel completely confident in your situation, then you're not growing. You're stagnating. You're not learning. You're just repeating old patterns. And so if we're constantly learning how to improve and grow our businesses, that requires us to have courage, to put ourselves out there, even though we don't have all the answers, and to do it scared. And that's exactly what my client, this member of our BAE community, did. And guess what? He was successful. His very first client signed a 6-month coaching contract with him, and they've already had their first session. So let's start at the beginning of this story. To protect the anonymity of my client, I'm going to call him Michael. Michael left academia several years ago. He has been working in an industry job, and he enrolled in BAE because he wants to own his own coaching business. I'm not going to go into the specifics of his business, but the first thing we did when he joined BAE and we started his weekly cohort sessions inside our 12-week group coaching cohort was to start helping him to narrow down his niche. Who does he want to help? What problems does he want to help them solve? Michael is on what I call the Accelerator plan, which is a premium plan that gets you 2 one-on-one coaching sessions with me, plus daily asynchronous support on a free voice messaging app called Voxer. And so with that additional support, in addition to our 12 weeks of weekly group coaching calls with his full cohort, Michael has been able to design and launch his business in a matter of weeks rather than months. And that may not be right for everyone. Maybe you're not ready to take on a full roster of clients, and that's fine. Maybe you're still teaching full time and you just don't have the brain space to deal with this. Maybe the regular BAE core plan is right for you and you take your time growing your business. But if you are wanting to move faster, or if you're needing to replace your income from another job that you've left, then I highly recommend the Accelerator plan because it helps you get that direct one-on-one support every day, if you like, on Voxer to grow your business a lot faster. So Michael went through the course materials. He watched the videos. He pulled up the templates and the other tools that come with your membership in BAE. And he designed the first draft of his website fairly quickly. He also started posting on LinkedIn. And so these are the first steps that I recommend you take because I call your website your home on the internet. And if you don't want to use a website, you can start with your LinkedIn profile. But you have to have somewhere to send people so that they know that you're real. We obviously live in a time when someone sees a post from you advertising coaching services or editing services, and their first question is this person a scammer or are they real? And so it helps to have a LinkedIn profile and a website where they can go and investigate and learn more about you. Were these efforts to create these profiles, these homes on the internet, the website and the LinkedIn, were they perfect by Michael? No, they were not. But he had me and our BAE community there to give him feedback and to cheer him on as he did the work. And so once he finished his first draft of his homepage and his LinkedIn profile, he sent it to me and I gave him some pointers on how to make some adjustments. But really, he was 80% there on his own just from using the materials inside the online course portion of the BAE program. Now, all of this was taking place during the first 2 to 3 weeks of Michael's cohort. So he was doing the work. We were having our weekly sessions. He was getting more information from me directly on Voxer, putting all of these materials together. He had no idea if any of this was going to result in a client. Well, fast forward to about week 4 of the cohort, and I get a Voxer message from Michael saying that a former colleague recommended him to someone who is graduating this semester with his PhD and is on the industry job market. And so this person needs help with developing his application materials and preparing for interviews and just getting regular support and feedback as he applies to jobs this spring. Michael, as I said at the beginning of the show, he's already done this, right? He left academia and went into industry. And so he knows this process. He knows how to support this client in these efforts. But the thing that Michael doesn't know is how to come up with a coaching package, how to price it, how to pitch it, how to sell it to this potential client. He has all the skills to help the client draft the resume and land the job interviews. He just needs support in selling the service, developing and selling the service. And so that's why he's working with me. Now, here is where we're going to dig into how I helped Michael prepare to handle this client inquiry. And keep in mind that Michael has never done this before. He is just at the start of developing his business materials of his website and everything. And he hadn't even designed any coaching packages at this point. We're only in week 4 of the cohort. But he got this inquiry, and we don't want to let an inquiry go. So the first thing that we did is Michael sent me a Voxer and he told me a little bit about the client and what they were looking for. And I walked Michael through my process for holding what we call a discovery call. Now, a discovery call is the initial call you have with someone who's interested in working with you to find out more about what they need and whether or not you're able to help them. I am doing a workshop coming up later this month for anyone who's ever enrolled in BAE. So that's over 100 members in our BAE community. And this workshop is going to be hosted live for anyone who wants to show up. We also record it and I share the replay inside our course. So anyone who's ever enrolled in BAE can take a look at that, even if they can't make it live. And the first thing that I'm covering is these discovery calls. So I walked Michael through. We haven't had this workshop yet, right? This was a couple weeks ago when Michael was working on landing this client. He had no idea how to have a discovery call. So he messaged me on Voxer and I walked him through it in those voice messages. And I told him exactly what to ask and how to end the call so that you would successfully get the potential client to commit to talk to you again in a few days for a sales call. And the feedback from the client was positive. Michael said it seemed like this person enjoyed talking with him and felt good about potentially working together. And so that person scheduled another appointment with Michael to discuss the coaching packages that Michael was going to put together for him. Okay. So Michael updates me with all this information on Voxer, and I asked him to come up with two options for coaching packages, what I call a base option and a premium option. And the idea here is that you are letting people choose basically how much support they need and how much money they want to spend. And so Michael thought about it and he worked on it and he outlined these packages for me along with his reasoning for the prices. These were, each one was 6-month coaching package where he'd be meeting with the client on Zoom about every 2 weeks and reviewing and giving feedback on the client's job market materials. And given the level of support that Michael would be providing to this client over the 6-month period, and by support, we mean time and knowledge and energy, which is a lot in a 6-month period. That's, it's not just when you're on the Zoom call with a person. They are also living in your mind when you're thinking about how to help them over a 6-month period try to achieve their goals. And so based on my experience and knowing that there's a lot more that goes into a coaching package of this magnitude than what you might think if you've never done this before, I told Michael I thought the prices he came up with were a bit too low. I thought he needed to raise the prices. And understandably, he was a little bit nervous about this. He was worried about potentially losing this client if he charges more. A lot of people are. That is a big stumbling block for new editors and coaches is if I charge more, the person is going to say no, and I'm going to lose out on the work. And that way of thinking is coming from a place of fear and of scarcity and of a fear that there aren't enough clients out there who are going to hire me, that nobody's ever going to hire me. So I have to charge bottom of the barrel rates. And that fear is present, unfortunately, among a lot of people in the editing community in particular, and also among new coaches. And so what I teach in my BAE program is that we cannot price our services from a place of scarcity or a place of fear. We have to think about the value that our clients are getting from us, the energy and the knowledge and the time that we are going to pour into them and how they're going to benefit from that so that the relationship is fair for both of us. It's fair in terms of the price that the client is paying for the package, and it's fair compensation for us as the service provider. And so I never pressure anyone to charge more or less. It's totally up to you because it's your business and you are the boss. But I shared what I thought, and Michael went away and he reevaluated and he realized he agreed with me. And so he came up with 2 new prices for these packages that were more in line with the value that he would be providing to the client. So then I walked Michael through the process for handling the sales call. And this is also something I'm going to be talking about in my upcoming workshop this month for BAE members. And, the discovery call is a relatively easy process. It's you asking questions to learn about the client and what they need and what goals they're trying to achieve. The sales call is a little dicier. If you've never had a business, none of us is comfortable at pitching people and asking them to pay us thousands of dollars to coach them over 6 months. And to be perfectly honest, it still feels weird to me sometimes to make these pitches, but You do get used to it. You do get practice, as with anything else. When I was a grad student and I was first presenting at conferences, I was terrified to stand up there and give a presentation. Now, after teaching college classes for years and now mentoring folks in my program, I could teach this stuff in my sleep, and I'm not at all nervous to speak on roundtables or panels or in front of my students. And so, as with anything else, making the sales pitch and having these sales calls, you just do it and you practice it. You do it scared and you practice it, and it gets easier and easier, especially when you have a clear roadmap and I don't want to say script because it's not that tightly planned, but an outline or a roadmap for how to have these calls and a strategy for how to have the calls makes it a lot easier. So I was able to walk Michael through this plan for his sales call, which was coming up in a couple of days. I sent him a probably overly long 10 or 15-minute Voxer message where I coached him through the whole process for the sales call. The other great thing about Voxer is that, when Michael sends me a message back, I can hear his voice. I can hear that he was nervous. I could hear that he was having doubts, that he was starting to feel scared about having this call. He was feeling scared about possibly being rejected, being turned down. And we have to remember in these moments that almost all the time, I don't want to say 100% of the time, but I'm going to say 80 to 85% of the time, if somebody turns us down, it has nothing to do with us personally. If someone has contacted you, if they've sat through a discovery call, they know by now if they like you or not. They know by now if they would like to work with you. And so if you get to the sales call and you make your pitch and somebody doesn't work with you, they turn you down, it's not about you personally. It's about whatever's happening in their life. It's about, maybe it is about the price. Maybe they truthfully don't have the budget for whatever it is you're charging. That doesn't mean you should lower your prices, right? But if they turn you down, it is often just about them, that they feel self-doubt, that they feel uncertainty about whether or not they will be able to do what it is that they're trying to do. And that has nothing to do with you. It's all about them. And so I could hear in Michael's voice this self-doubt that was creeping in and this nervousness and this anxiety. And I was able to respond to that in my own messages back to him and reassure him that he can do this, that he has the skills to support the client, that this is his business. He can charge whatever he wants, that he just has to demonstrate to them the value that he's offering. And that goes a long way. That's the value of working with a coach, of somebody who's been there and who understands how you're feeling in those moments, is you have somebody there to reassure you so that you do keep taking those next steps, even if you're scared. You do keep pushing forward and pushing ahead, even if you're scared. And so Michael had his sales call with the potential client. As we expect, the client was a little bit taken aback by the price. This is totally normal, especially for people who have never worked with a coach before. They just are not aware of the price of packages like this. And again, the price is high because it reflects the value that we're giving to the client and our energy, knowledge, and time that we are pouring into that person. And so, for example, if you think of somebody who's going on the job market, like Michael's client, and this person had interviewed for several jobs already, kept getting struck out, kept striking out, kept submitting resumes and not getting invited for interviews. And the idea here is, what is the value of working with a coach? Well, the value is that you're going to stop failing and you're going to start getting those interviews that you haven't been able to get. You're going to start preparing for those interviews more effectively and eventually, hopefully, of course, we can't promise this to anyone, but you're going to have a better chance of landing a job that you love than if you had continued to go this alone. And so when we're pricing our services, we have to think about, what is that worth to our clients? Well, In this situation, I think it's worth quite a lot of money to land a better job than to go another year getting rejected over and over again. So Michael had his sales call. The client was a little bit nervous about the money and said that he needed to take some time to think it over. No problem. That's normal. We set up a time. Michael set up a time with this person to actually get an answer because you don't want to have people leave you hanging forever. If you're spending all this time with someone on Zoom, you deserve to get a yes or no answer. And I think this was at the end of the week. And so the person thought about it over the weekend. And it also left Michael with the weekend to get in his own head. And I don't know this for sure, but I know it happened to me all the time when I was just starting out, is that somebody tells you they need some time to think about it, and you immediately get in your own head and you start worrying again, and you start feeling those nerves and that anxiety about what the outcome is going to be. That is this person going to hire me or not? And so I suspect that if Michael is anything like me, he was probably sitting there all weekend waiting to hear an answer and feeling nervous about what might happen. But the following week, this was week 5 of our cohort, Michael contacted me on Voxer and shared that the client had signed the contract and was moving forward with working with him. So that was a huge, huge thing to celebrate. And I told him, congratulations, please celebrate this because you have just landed your first client. And that is so rewarding for him and for me. I was just so thrilled to hear that. And, because the client was a grad student, he said he was not able to pay the full amount in full for the 6 months of coaching. But Michael arranged with him that the client could pay him before each session as making these installments for the 6-month coaching package. And I think this is a really great example of how we can accommodate a client's budget needs without lowering our own prices, without selling ourselves short. And so, like I said earlier, we think that we need to lower our prices to get people to work with us, but that's not true. We can be flexible. We can make different arrangements to help accommodate somebody's budget without losing money ourselves. And so Michael and the client had their first coaching session, and this relationship is off to a great start. Again, that was week 5 of the 12-week cohort that Michael landed his first coaching client. A few takeaways from this process, from this story for you. I want you to accept that the process of marketing yourself, of landing clients, of building a website, of negotiating pricing and packages and all this stuff, this is an imperfect process. In business, you are never going to be ready. You're never going to feel ready. You can spend months or a year putting together what you think is going to be the perfect homepage and designing and posting what you think are the perfect posts on social media and designing what you think is going to be the perfect package with the perfect prices for coaching or editing or whatever you're doing. And it's never going to be perfect because there is no perfect package. There is no perfect website. These things are living offers. Your website is a living document. You are always going to be making changes to it. You should always be making changes to it in response to the feedback that you hear from your clients. This is what we call voice of customer research, where you're constantly listening to the pain points and the struggles that your clients or your audience members, even if they're not already your clients, what they're talking about. What are the things that they're looking for? What are they struggling with? What's keeping them up at night? What are the dreams that they have that you can help them achieve? And so you out there as an academic, if you're listening to this, you probably feel like everything has to be perfect and all your ducks have to be in a row before you start sharing that you have a business. And that is absolutely not true. So accept that this is an imperfect process, that you are never going to be ready to do it. You're always going to have a little element of flying by the seat of your pants. That is normal. It's going to be scary. And when you're running a business, you're always growing and you're always learning. And, as an academic, that's something I actually really love about having a business is that it's never boring. I am always learning and trying to improve what I'm doing. The second takeaway from this story is the value of getting help and support from an experienced coach. And so the choice here is, on the one hand, yes, you could fumble along by yourself. You could try to make your own homepage. You could try to design your own coaching packages. You could try to walk through discovery calls and sales calls and figure it all out on your own. But that sucks, right? That sucks. It's stressful. It's confusing. You might be successful. In fact, you probably will have some success, but it's hard. It's really, really hard. I know because I did it for a long time before I hired a business coach. Or your other option is that you can take a course like BAE. You can take a marketing course. You can take a business course. You can work with a business coach like me and use that person as a guide who's done this all before, who's learned all these lessons, who knows what to focus on or what you should focus on, and can lead you through this journey. And that is likely going to increase your chances of success. And this is very important, don't underestimate this caveat, but hiring a coach doesn't just make you more likely to succeed and land clients, it also makes you more likely to actually enjoy the work that you're doing. It reduces the stress, it gives you clarity, it gives you direction. And I don't know about you, but wandering around in the dark, feeling like you're just stabbing things blind, right? Just trying to do things, anything randomly, that's not fun for me. I don't like that. And so investing a little bit of money and time in a coaching relationship is going to make running your business, launching and growing your business, scaling your business so much more enjoyable than if you're doing this alone. And then the final key takeaway from this story, this episode is, again, you are going to be scared. You are going to be scared when you do this, when you set out on this journey, when you make decisions to grow the business, to scale, to create a new offer, to develop an online course, to offer a paid workshop. Every step along the way, you're going to be scared and you're going to doubt yourself. But you have to do it anyway, right? Again, if you're not scared, that means that you are too comfortable. If you're not scared, you are repeating patterns, things you've already done. If you are not scared, you are comfortable. And if you are comfortable, you're not learning, you're not growing. We have to be okay with being uncomfortable because that means that we are always pushing ourselves further. We are pushing ourselves forward. We are learning new things. We are growing as a human being. We are growing as a business owner. And that's just what it takes. You have to do it scared. Now, as of this recording, the Becoming an Academic Editor or Coach program has 2 tiers. The first tier is BAE Core, and this includes full access to the online course, which includes videos, 3 dozen tools and templates, which I call the Business Starter Kit, all of the stuff you need to start your business, and watch the videos and learn about what it takes to design a business and grow a business. And you get access to this and all updates as soon as you enroll, and you keep that access for the life of the program. BAE Core also includes membership in our Slack community, again, for the life of the program. So there are over 100 community members who belong to this Slack channel and support each other by answering questions. You also get membership in a 12-week live coaching cohort, and each cohort is capped at 20 people. So that keeps it small, so everybody gets direct attention. We meet once a week for 90 minutes. You get personalized feedback, direct answers to all your questions, and you get to belong to a community of kind and generous people who are just like you. I cannot overemphasize how valuable these spaces are when we meet every week and people are vulnerable and they share about their lives and they share about their fears and their struggles, and they are lifted up by by their peers, not even just me, but by their peers in their cohort who they get to know very closely. I don't think it's a stretch to say that many of us become friends. And it's a really special place to be. And I find it very important, very moving to host these spaces for folks. Finally, in BAE Core, as I mentioned earlier, we also have quarterly all community calls. Some of these are workshops, like I mentioned, that I'm having the Discovery and Sales Call workshop later this month, where I'm delivering instruction on whatever the topic is for the quarter. Or sometimes they're just community calls for folks to get together and to meet people from other cohorts and to build connections. Now, you have a second option. This is the BAE Accelerator program tier that I mentioned that Michael was on in this story that I shared on the episode today. With the Accelerator tier, you get everything in BAE Core, plus that one-on-one access to me over Voxer, which again is a free voice messaging app where we can share asynchronous voice messages. And you get that access to me for the full 12-week cohort. You also get 2 30-minute Zoom calls that are one-on-one with me during the cohort to get direct feedback. And you get a line-by-line website or marketing audit. And so you send your website to me, for instance, and I record a video with feedback on those materials, and I edit the text if that's what you would like. And so this is the plan that Michael used and has helped him make so much progress so quickly before we're even halfway through his cohort. But Michael isn't the only member of the current BAE cohort to have some wins. We have somebody else who landed her first client during week 2. We have somebody else who has been getting inquiries for editing and landed some clients. We have another member of the current cohort who received 2 inquiries about dissertation editing last week. She told us during our weekly call, which is in this current cohort, it's on Fridays, that she said she was nervous because it had taken a few days. It had been a few days since she spoke with these people or emailed with these people, and she hadn't heard back from them. And I told her on that call that it's almost never the editor that's the problem. If you don't hear back, it's probably just because people are busy and they get caught up in life. Sure enough, 2 hours after our Zoom call ended, same day, I got an email from this BAE student saying that not one, but both clients replied to her email. They said that life had been lifing and they were excited to hire her to edit their dissertation. And so that's 2 clients landed in one day in week 5 of the current BAE cohort. I love that news. It just makes me so thrilled, so happy to see people experiencing this success. And I have to tell you, this is the power, again, of belonging to a community of academics in business. You never have to do this alone. You take the steps to start, even though you're terrified, because you know that we are your safe place to land. Whether or not the client works with you, no matter what happens, you are surrounded by people who truly get you because they're in the same place. They're going through the same challenges. They're having the same worries. Everybody in every single cohort that we've run of BAE, which is now planning our 8th cohort to start in May. Everybody has the same fears. Everybody has the same self-doubt. And when you join us, you have a coach in me who's been there and who walks with you every step of the way. So I hope this conversation has been helpful. I've tried to give you a little glimpse into what it looks like to do this work, even though you're scared. And I just want to say fear isn't a sign that you're not qualified. Fear isn't a sign that you shouldn't do this. It's a sign that you're growing. It's a sign that you're learning. And fear is a sign that big things are waiting for you just around the corner. If you want to take this next step, even if you're scared, go to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. I'll see you next week. If you're unhappy in academia and you think you might be a good editor or writing coach, check out my course, Becoming an Academic Editor. This digital course is paired with a 12-week group coaching program to support you through your decision to leave academia or not, and to start building a profitable and rewarding academic editing business. Learn more by going to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.